Hello everybody, and welcome to the October edition of the Haunted Earth Show, or should I say the Halloween special. And as you can see, I'm sat in half-light repose to add an air of mystery to the occasion. For tonight, instead of just one investigation to share with you, we have actually two. The first, which we're going to start off with, was an impromptu daytime visit to the estate of Lord Verulam on the edge of St Albans in Hertfordshire, to a ruin owned and maintained by English Heritage, which sadly can only be accessed during the daytime. And in fact, getting to the estate was quite a hike, from where we had to park our car because vehicles that weren't authorised weren't allowed to drive through to the remains of the house, and so we had a 2-mile hike, both myself and my dear friend Tim Pomfret. Today is a bit of a special treat for Tim and myself. We've travelled over to the ancient city of St Albans, and we're actually on the outskirts on the Gorhambury estate, which is land owned by a Lord Verulam, who owned this property behind me, which was built in the 1560s. The builder was a man called Sir Nicholas Bacon, whose son, many of you are aware of, is the famous essayist and writer Sir Francis Bacon. By the 18th century, in fact by 1776, this house was abandoned and the family moved into the new hall just over the back. This property fell quickly into a state of deterioration and dereliction. Many good parts of the property were removed, and only the middle section is all that remains to this day. What we're going to do very briefly, it's the middle of the day, we can't shoot here at night. We're going to have a wander around and see whether or not we can tap into any activity here. We've got a basement to go into, admittedly with no floor, and just a few remains of the original structure. Well, we're actually standing in the basement or cellar of the original house, and if you look over here, you can actually see the fireplace on the ground floor area. And underneath here appears to be some kind of a small vault. I can feel energy around me, but I can't feel people. I can feel presences, and it feels much stronger towards what is now the back of the house, which would have been the side of the main entrance. Can you just imagine what grandeur and splendour this place would have been in its original day? And today reduced to nothing more than just a mere ruin for people like us to come and admire and be in awe of. But it's hard to imagine that Queen Elizabeth I visited this property 4 times in her life, and she remarked on how grand the house was. Realising the political sensibilities of the day and owning a property which perhaps was better than the Queen's, remarked something similar to the vein of that it can only be so grand because of her and because of how it's made him as a man. And this whole building is just sort of wrapped up in the aura of the Elizabethan period. You can imagine the army of servants that would have serviced this original property, and probably how difficult it would have been to maintain. The stonework that's used here has been transported from as far as France and Derbyshire in England. And Derbyshire from here is still a considerable distance, and bearing in mind they didn't have motorways, they didn't have trains, they didn't have proper road transport. So all this stone would have been carried here on horse and cart and laboured by a very strong peasant workforce. But what a magnificent achievement even these ruins are today. What we're going to do, we're just going to wander around in here and see if we can touch base and pick up any EVP. Energy is really strong at this end, Tim.
Is it?
Yeah, very, very strong. Now, distinctly a female presence here, but not, dare I say, Queen Elizabeth I, but probably one of the servants. But it feels residual more than anything else. But you can just feel this all-embracing aura of energy around this building, and I can imagine at night this place must be very, very active. I don't feel happiness here at all. In fact, I feel a kind of sadness, really. I just get the impression that the people that lived and worked here perhaps didn't live in the best of circumstances, and I can just feel this depressing aura now, just in this one spot here. We're just looking at traces, we're just looking at echoes of the past. Those echoes which, if you like, are absorbed into the stone and brickwork of the remains of this house. One thing I can feel very strongly, presence of children as well, very, very strongly. It's hard to imagine how many people would have been associated with the original house. It would have run into probably 100 people here to look after the horses, to look after the grounds, people that maintained the property, carpenters, iron workers and such like, as well of course the servants for the people that owned this property. And in a way they've all left a signature of themselves here, and you can feel it here. But here it just feels very sad, very, very sad. The problem with this site is that obviously it's open to the public, there's aircraft flying over and there's cars driving past, so it's not going to be a good place to carry out any type of examination, and particularly so for the wind blowing through the trees. So we're actually going to call it a day here, and we're going over to St Albans and to look at some of the more interesting buildings that exist in the town today. Now, what was interesting, when we actually arrived there were two people. There were no children in the vicinity, and certainly no houses nearby. The nearest house to where we actually were was the New Hall, which is where Lord Verulam and his family lived, which was some distance from the ruins of the old Gorhambury house. And the EVP there, I'm certain, if we were allowed to visit during the hours of darkness, which of course we're not, would render a lot more interesting activity to share, and perhaps things may change, but with the expectation of that, I can honestly say that the likelihood is virtually impossible. Now obviously during this festive period of Halloween, many people celebrate it, particularly so in Britain and in North America, dressing in appropriate witches' costumes, going from house to house, trick-or-treating. And in America, when I was last there, and about that period of time, people would go out and buy sheaves of corn which they would put onto their porch, and of course it would add a certain air of mystique and mysticism to the occasion. And I certainly found it quite interesting to the extent that the Americans actually take this particular occasion. I mean, certainly here in England we do get kids banging on doors trick-or-treating for sweets mostly, but in America it's a much more commercial affair. And in fact, in modern day America, $6 billion is spent annually on this particular festival. But what are the origins of Halloween? Well, here's a very abridged version of the background to where it originated and to where it actually went to, and what it actually involved, because as with most of these festivities, there is always some form of religious basis to them. Halloween's origins date back to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. The Celts, who lived around 2,000 years ago in the area that is now Ireland and the United Kingdom, and of course northern France in Brittany, celebrated their new year on November the 1st. This day marked the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of the cold winter, a time of year that was often associated with human death. Celts believed that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. And on the night of October the 31st, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to the earth, and in addition causing trouble and damaging crops. Celts believed that the presence of otherworldly spirits made it easier for the Druids or Celtic priests to make predictions about the future. In the second half of the 19th century, America was flooded with new immigrants, particularly those being the Irish fleeing the potato famine of 1846, which helped to popularise the celebration of Halloween nationally. Taken from Irish and English traditions, Americans began to dress up in costumes and go house to house asking for food or money, a practice that eventually became today's trick-or-treat tradition. Young women, incidentally, believed on Halloween they could divine the name or appearance of their future husband by doing tricks with yarn, apple parings or mirrors. In the late 1800s, there was a move in America to mould Halloween into a holiday more about community and neighbourly get-togethers than about ghost pranks and witchcraft. Halloween parties for both children and adults became the most common way to celebrate the day. Parties focused on games, foods of the season and festive costumes. And certainly by the 1920s and 1930s, Halloween became more secular, but community-centred holiday with parades and town-wide parties which were featured entertainment. Despite the best efforts of many schools and communities, vandalism began to plague Halloween celebrations in many communities during this time, and so by the 1950s, town leaders had successfully limited vandalism on Halloween and evolved it into a holiday directed mainly at the young. And due to the high numbers of young children during the 50s baby boom, parties moved from town to town, civic centres and into classrooms or homes where they could be more easily accommodated. Between 1920 and 1950, the centuries-old practice of trick-or-treating was also revived. Trick-or-treating was a relatively inexpensive way for an entire community to share the celebrations. And that basically is a very fast roundup of Halloween. And certainly during my travels to the United States of America, it is a very big and major event. And I think perhaps, as with some Brits, people do tend to go a little bit overboard with their celebrations. The houses are festooned with lights, ghouls, demons, witches and all kinds of paraphernalia to add to the mystery of Halloween. Anyway, moving on from there, let's arrive at video number 2, which was a return visit to the ancient church. we returned to the ancient church. We haven't been here for some considerable time. I think the last time we actually came here was with our dear friend Mary Threer from America, and that was March, about 18 months ago. Tonight we're hoping to tap in again, as usual, with spiritual energies at the ancient church. And already there is an atmosphere which is starting to permeate through the building, and you can certainly feel presences as you're wandering around the building. Although it's just a rectangular structure, there is a lot of energy swelling around in here. And if you also recall, the last time we came here with Mary, we captured some pretty incredible phenomena in the shape of two light anomalies which look like a drum bouncing up and down. Just over there, just see a light. Big white flash. Yeah. Someone watching us.
Yep.
Hang on a minute, let me go forward. It's just here. There's a white flash. Just against this wall here. Spirits of this building, we come here in love, light and peace. I mean no harm or offence. In fact, we have come here to make friendly and peaceful contact with you. We respect the fact that you need your privacy and peace. We don't come here very often, but we wondered whether or not you are prepared to communicate with us in some way. I see where I'm feeling the energy up there.
Yeah, that's what I said to you when we got here.
Just in that, at that part.
There's someone up there looking down.
Yeah. It's like a piece of flint. I know that you're there. I can feel you. I can feel your tension. Please do not be angry or concerned. We mean you no harm or disrespect. We just wish to make contact with you if you're prepared to speak to us, to give us some indication of your presence. I have the impression that you are hiding from us. Yeah. There's something going on here. It's getting really icy cold here, Deanne. Thank you, I can feel you around me. Could you just step back a little bit, please? You want to come back here? Okay, I'll tell you what's going on. There is somebody standing around me, walking backwards and forwards, and from you too. One of the people that I'm feeling in here is dressed like a cleric. I can feel that. I can sense it. It's feeling very, very cold around me. There is a tension building up. There's an energy. Somebody wants to make contact, but there is something that's preventing them from doing so. I just want them to step forward into the light. Please don't be afraid of me. You can scan me, you can sense me. I mean you no harm. I mean no harm or offence. I mean no violence. I mean no disrespect whatsoever. I understand how you are. I understand how you feel. I can feel the pain that some of you are feeling, the sadness. There's a lot of flashes I can see across the ceiling. I'm feeling very sad. No. I
I can actually see shadows. You won't catch that on camera, no. I'm just looking now. I can actually see shadows coming across in front of me and back again. Grey, amorphous shadows. I've just caught something on the far end wall. Take that light off. That light's too strong. Your light's too strong, it's killing it. I've got the main beam off. I just see, well, I could see through the viewfinder a grey coat hanger shape move across. It's the figure of a person. There's an issue of trust here. That's what I am feeling very, very strongly. You see, the other thing as well, they can't sense fear from us. And fear is what they feed off. It's attention and energy. I don't want them to feel that we can feel that. I just want them to step out from their side of the Great Divide. Yeah, I've not seen, other than that one light energy that came down towards where you were, I've not seen anything at all, other than the flash on the wall, but that wasn't on camera. So those in spirit that love this building, we love this building a great deal too. It is, in our time, one of the most ancient buildings of England. The feelings that I'm getting here, I mean, once I'm off camera, as it were, put the camera down, I can feel a lot of compassion in here tonight. I can feel real love. And I'm not feeling that negativity, are you?
No, that's what I said to you. He's not here.
It's just pure compassion.
I can hear someone talking. You're not whispering to yourself, are you?
No.
What we're going to do, should we go outside and have a short break? I'll leave this camera over there. We've done about 30... Gosh, how long have we been here?
I've got 41 minutes here.
Yeah, about that time. Forgive us if we offend. We'll go inside for a few minutes.
One thing I find very irritating about the month of October and the build-up to Halloween is the absolute lack of anything worthwhile to report in the paranormal world. I mean, more recently I picked up a report in a national British newspaper concerning a TV Casanova chef who had hired out a former mental asylum office building or accommodation block, in which he proposed to have a dinner party attended by young models, and they were going to carry out a live paranormal investigation on Twitter. Now really, honestly, I ask you, what could ever go wrong with something like that? But when I researched further looking for interesting stories to share with you, I have to say I'm met with a wall of advertising, because Halloween is a big commercial proposition for many people. In America particularly, there are many specially built haunted houses which are staffed by actors dressed up as demons and ghouls to scare paying customers. And also, of course, advertise paid for ghost walks, and of course advertise and paid for paranormal investigations, allowing up to 40 people to join in on a particular invest. Now, of course, from my point of view, I have no interest in participating in those type of events, because I realise from experience the less people there are, the better opportunity of capturing real activity. And unfortunately, on YouTube and in the national press, that is one thing which is certainly starved. There is hardly anything worth sharing with anybody any particular time. Why that is so, I think, is perhaps the attitude of the media. Rather than taking a more, shall we say, serious look at the paranormal, it tends to be hyped up and treated as something akin to a joke. And that, to my point of view, is a very, very, very sad state of affairs. The paranormal exists whether people are prepared to believe or not. And of course, one day all of us will be part of that shared experience, because we will all pass on to the next level. And so that brings me to the end of tonight's show. Much shorter than last month. But when I actually place a video on YouTube, I discovered that anything over 30 minutes tends to create what we would call audio drag on the video, where the speaker is out of sync to the audio. And so in order to prevent that problem from occurring again, I've kept the video to around half an hour. And I hope you've enjoyed this particular show, and I'll be back again with you soon. Anyway, from me, take care and goodbye.